Arch Manning has spoken. What did the new QB1 at Texas have to say about his first few weeks of spring practice? We've got the sound on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin native, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and tell your Longhorn friends about Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. We'll talk a little Texas baseball. We'll talk some Texas men's basketball later in today's episode, but we'll start with some Longhorn football. And late last week, Texas made a couple of players available to the media for the first time this spring. We've heard from Steve Sarkisian a few times, but this was our first chance to hear from some of the Longhorn players. And one of the players who spoke was QB1 Arch Manning, who fielded a number of questions from reporters after a practice. We've got some sound, about 5 cuts from Manning's availability. I will say this to start before we play anything. Arch Manning doesn't give you a whole lot, right? Relatively short answers to the questions. Maybe he learned that from Quinn Ewers, who never rambled at any press conference or media availability. Hell, maybe Arch Manning learned that from his family, right? It feels like anything you say at a press conference can and will be used against you, especially when you're Arch Manning, who is the most popular college athlete in America right now. So maybe the smart, sound strategy by Arch Manning to err on the side of brevity when it comes to these answers. But hey, Arch Manning gave us enough, and we've got some of my favorite things that he said for today's show. So we'll start with this one. Arch Manning was asked if, hey, things are a little bit different this spring now that you are running with the ones.
No, I don't think so. I tried to prepare like I was a starter every practice back then, so there's not much difference.
Again, short and sweet and to the point for Arch Manning. And look, that's very cliche. That's very quarterback speak from Arch Manning. I think any backup quarterback will tell you that they know they're only one play away from being inserted into the game, so they always try to prepare like they are going to see the field every time their team takes the field. But I think we saw that firsthand last year, right? With Arch Manning coming in relief of Quinn Ewers in that UTSA game. I mean, he lit the world on fire in that second half against the Roadrunners, and obviously started a couple of games after that and played incredibly well against ULM, and then, of course, in the SEC opener against Mississippi State. So a little bit of cliche, but again, Arch Manning showed that, hey, he was prepared every Saturday last year. And hell, outside of those 3 games that we talked about, we know Arch Manning was a part of the Texas offense throughout the season. Myself and a lot of Texas fans across the country kind of wish Arch Manning was a bigger part of the Longhorn offense in 2024. Would have loved to have seen him get a few more snaps in the college football playoff, but I digress. The point is, Arch Manning could have had his number called at any time because there were a few packages in the Texas offense last season, even with Quinn Ewers as the starting quarterback, that had Arch Manning on the field. So I believe him when he says that, yeah, he prepared last year like he could get in the game at any time. This is one of the longer answers we've got from Arch last week. The key to winning the locker room, of course, Quinn Ewers was the starter the last 3 seasons in Austin. Arch Manning's been here for a couple of years, so it's not like he's a newcomer. Most of the guys in that room know who he is, but obviously it's a different ball game when you are the starting quarterback. Here is Arch Manning talking about the process of winning over the Texas locker room and getting everybody on his side.
Yeah, I think you have to walk the walk. You got to work hard, and it's a game after all. So you got to have fun, smile, laugh, know that you're going to back these guys up and play for them. But I think I'm imperfect. Like, I'm going to make some leadership mistakes, but it's just continuing to grow, get better every day.
Yeah, and something else Arch Manning said that was interesting. I didn't cut this one up, but Arch talked about former West Virginia head coach and new Texas analyst Neil Brown kind of helping out with that process, right? Neil not doing a bunch in terms of X's and O's. That's Steve Sarkisian and the rest of the on-field coaching staff that has taken the reins on that. But Neil Brown told Arch Manning that, hey, at every breakfast, you've got to go sit with someone else. Like, I know you've got your best friends. I know you've got the guys maybe in the class that you came in with back in 2023. But to make sure that everybody wants to play for you, you need to go hang out with everybody on this team and get everybody on the locker room, from the starters to the reserves to the walk-ons to everybody. You need these guys on your side. You need everybody galvanized. And Arch talked about that being one of the things that he's learned. But of course, you got to walk the walk, right? Anybody could talk, but anyone could go in there and start yelling and being that rah-rah guy. If you don't back it up with some strong play, and if you don't bring the right attitude and mindset to practice every single day, then no one's going to buy into what you're trying to sell. And for Arch Manning, yeah, we're still 4.5 months away from the first game against another team. But as the quarterback, especially as a first-year starter at quarterback, you've got to show the other guys around you that, hey, you mean business. And because I'm leading this way, I expect you guys to follow my lead. And we got to bring it every single day to make sure we can win 2 more games than we won last year. Speaking of Arch being the backup, of course, he was behind Quinn Ewers. Arch Manning was asked about Quinn and how Quinn was the last couple of years, kind of as a mentor, and what the relationship is like today.
Yeah, Quinn's been great. I was just with him this past weekend at Hayden Connor's wedding. He's just been so good to me over the years. It's probably pretty annoying having me as the backup, just with all the media stuff, but he handled it like a champ, and he was so good to me along the way.
Do you think it's annoying with all the media stuff and it comes along?
For sure. Sorry.
How about that from Arch at the end? The follow-up question, well, hey, do you think the media stuff is annoying? Yeah, for sure. Sorry about that, but yeah. And I don't blame him. I can't even imagine what that's like as a 19-year-old kid trying to go through college and just not being able to go anywhere or do anything without being stopped. Again, the most popular and well-known college athlete there is in America right now. And he's only started 2 games in his college career. We all know why. But, yeah, I'm sure the media stuff gets tiring, and I'm sure Quinn Ewers got tired of it the last couple of years. The backup quarterback is always the most popular kid on campus. When the backup quarterback's name is Manning, that makes him even more popular, and that was obvious by the crowd reactions every time 16 was inserted into a game these last couple of years. But it sounds like those guys had a great relationship. That doesn't differentiate from anything we've heard from Quinn talking about Arch and Arch talking about Quinn. Those guys seemingly got along really well. And congrats to Hayden Connor, by the way. What a month. He's going to get drafted in the NFL draft, I hope, later in April, but got married to start the month. So congrats are in order to the now former Texas offensive lineman. Couple more here from Arch Manning. Again, immediate availability late last week. What about the wide receiver position? We've talked about this a lot here on Locked On Longhorns. You know, your top 2 receivers that came back from last season are out for the remainder of the spring, dealing with injuries. DeAndre Moore battling a toe, Ryan Wingo battling a hammy. So a lot of young guys, a lot of lesser-known names have been kind of thrown into the fire and have taken the lion's share of the reps at spring practice. Arch Manning was asked about which young wide receivers have stepped up so far through these first couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's been good getting these young guys up to speed. I've been really impressed with Parker, and Dalen McCutcheon's been really good. He's coming along well. He's getting the hang of things.
So there you go. A couple of names right there from Arch Manning. Parker Livingston, we spent basically a whole segment of an episode talking about him and the rave reviews he's been getting from Texas players, Texas coaches, and the Texas insiders as well. Keep an eye out on the redshirt freshman out of Lovejoy. Not the highest touted recruit that Texas brought in the class of 2024, but a guy who apparently is making a big time name for himself. If he didn't get injured in his senior year of high school at Lovejoy, I think he would have been talked about a lot more coming into Texas. But it sounds like he's 100% healed from that leg injury he suffered in high school. And he could be a guy, despite his lack of experience, again, 0 career collegiate catches, he could be a guy that is an impact player for this Longhorn offense when we get to the fall. And then Dalen McCutcheon, if Livingston as a redshirt freshman wasn't young enough, Dalen McCutcheon, an early enrollee true freshman, a guy who wasn't talked about, another guy who wasn't talked about that much, because Texas brought in, Khalil Lockett and Jamie French, a couple of 5-stars in this number 1 class of 2025. Those guys were generating most of the buzz. Those guys were getting the majority of the headlines. And Dalen McCutcheon, he's no slouch. He's a 4-star recruit, a top 100 player in America in this year's class, but not discussed as much amongst Longhorn fans. Dalen McCutcheon has been getting a lot of reps with the ones, again, in large part due to those injuries to Moore and Wingo. But to get that call out from Arch Manning there, I think that's a pretty big deal. Arch only gave you 2 names right there, and those were the 2 that he dropped. So Livingston, not that much of a surprise considering the other things that we've heard, but hearing that Dalen McCutcheon has been one of those receivers who has stepped up when his number has been called, that's really cool to hear. And obviously it's incredibly important for Arch Manning to build up some chemistry with these young wide receivers. The transfer portal opens up again on Wednesday. Think Texas will be in the market for a more proven wide receiver. But still, even if you do bring in 1 or 2 wide receivers, you're going to need at least 1, if not 2, 3, or 4 of these freshmen or redshirt freshmen to make some plays for you this season. So getting these reps right now is paramount. And Sark talked about it last week. I think we played the sound last week. He knows what DeAndre Moore is. He knows what Ryan Wingo is. Yes, those guys could use the extra reps and the chance to build up more rapport and chemistry with Arch Manning. But we've all seen what those guys can do. His coaching staff now gets more of an opportunity to see what these younger guys can do. And again, sounds like some of these dudes are making the most of their opportunities. So we'll need to hear more of that over these last 2 weeks and change of spring ball. Last but not least, the final cut from Arch Manning, talking a little bit about his offensive line. Look, you've got a new quarterback at Texas, but also a new center, Jake Majors, who was a 4-year starter. It felt like he was a 34-year starter. He's off to the NFL, hoping to hear his name called in the NFL draft in a couple of weeks. By a couple of weeks, I mean next Thursday, Friday or Saturday. Here's Arch Manning talking about Cole Hudson, and then he starts going around the rest of the Longhorn offensive line as well.
Yeah, been really impressed with Cole. Cole started as a freshman at guard, so he has playing experience, and he's been good at center. Yeah, we would throw in the winter, and I'd have him come snap when we were throwing the receivers. So him and DJ brings a lot of energy, and he's just good for the locker room. So I'm excited to have those 2 blocking for me.
So there you go. Arch Manning, getting some extra work in with Cole Hudson during winter workouts, of course, away from spring football. And he mentioned DJ Campbell as well. I mean, Cole Hudson and DJ Campbell are going to have to be great because those are the 2 most proven commodities on this Texas offensive line that, of course, is losing 4 starters from this past season. Cole Hudson's played a lot of football. DJ Campbell's your 1 returning starter. Those guys kind of rotated at right guard at times in 2024. Those guys are both going to be full-time starters in 2025. Texas needs them to be great. Obviously, Trevor Gooseby, your other guy with some playing experience we saw late in the season. The Horns are going to need him to be ready for the big time as well. And then you've got Neto and Brandon Baker, your presumed other 2 starting O-linemen. But, Cole Hudson and DJ Campbell, those guys, a lot of experience. They know this system incredibly well. This is their 4th and 5th spring practices for those dudes. They've got to bring it for the Longhorns this fall. So there you go. 5 cuts of sound from Arch Manning. Again, he doesn't give you a lot. I didn't shorten those myself. Like, those were the entirety of those answers that Arch Manning gave. He gives you enough, straight to the point, doesn't beat around the bush or anything like that. And I continue to be super impressed with Arch's demeanor. Look, as a guy in the media, I would love for him to give you a little bit more when it comes to being in front of a microphone. But the way that this guy has just handled things off the field is super impressive. Said it a few minutes ago. I can't even imagine what it's like to be him. As a random nobody in college, I was worried that people were filming me, and it impacted my decision making, right? I just didn't want to do anything stupid in the background of someone's picture or someone's video that was going to get me in trouble. Again, I was a nobody. Arch Manning, the most ballyhooed person on campus by far right now at the University of Texas. Even though there's 50,000 students at UT, it ain't small fish, big pond. It's big fish in big pond for Arch Manning. That guy gets recognized everywhere he goes. He's handled things incredibly well since the moment he stepped foot on campus, and he continues to do just that. All right, there you go. Some sound from QB1, talking a little spring football. We'll have more Steve Sarkisian sound throughout the course of the week, and we'll have plenty more updates on Longhorn spring practice as well. But let's shift gears here because we've got ourselves a new number 1 team in college baseball. That is your Texas Longhorns. We will recap the Horn Series victory in Kentucky and talk about just how impressive this year has been for Jim Schlossnagle and company. That's coming up next right here on Locked on Longhorns. But first, a word for our friends at Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where'd all my money go? Between dining out and online shopping and entertainment, It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. They are your personal CFO. They're going to give you full visibility and control over your finances. This is not just an ordinary budgeting app. This is a complete financial command center. So you can track all of your bank accounts, all of your investments, all of your spending in one place. So you can stop just managing your money and living paycheck to paycheck, but you can actually start building your wealth. And you're going to realize how much money you're spending on dumb subscriptions and food delivery and things like that. And again, it's all right there at your fingertips on one app. Check your finances, track your spending, even plan long-term goals. If you're saving up for a new car, a new place, whatever, Monarch Money makes it super, super easy to take control of your finances. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, 50% off your first year. Just use that promo code LOCKEDONCollege over there online at monarchmoney.com. Back here on Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. The Texas Longhorns baseball team stands alone atop the SEC standings and atop the college baseball world. D1 Baseball released its new poll earlier today, and the Longhorns came in at number 1. Texas was number 2 last week, behind only Arkansas. Well, Arkansas dropped 2 of 3 against Georgia over the weekend. Thank you, Georgia. I don't say that very often, but appreciate what you did, Bulldogs. And Texas, of course, on the road at Kentucky, taking 2 of 3 from the Wildcats. So the Longhorns, they flip-flop with Arkansas. Texas now number 1. The Hogs drop down to number 2. And those two teams were tied atop the SEC going into the weekend. The Horns now hold a 1-game lead for first place in the Southeastern Conference. By the way, Baseball America and the USA Today coaches poll both have Texas as the number 1 team in the country. So it is unanimous right now, and it is deserved. It was kind of a grinded out, ugly road series in Lexington, but hey, we do not complain about series wins here on Locked On Longhorns. Texas got the wins on Friday and Sunday. Friday night game, 6-3. Ethan Mendoza, who had 5 RBIs against Houston Christian last Tuesday, follows it up with 4 runs batted in that series opener against Kentucky. Some timely hits too, a go-ahead 2-run double in the 7th, and then a 2-run single to add a little insurance in the 8th inning. Texas was down 2-1 going into the 7th, and they came back to get it done. Jared Spencer, not his best, but he battled through 4 2/3. Max Grubbs ate some innings out of the pen, and then Dylan Valanthus getting out of a jam and then getting the job done in the 9th inning to preserve that Texas victory. Texas lost on Saturday. How good are the Longhorns right now? Well, you need 15 innings to beat them. That's what Saturday's game was. Obviously frustrating when you lose a marathon like that. Texas loses on a defensive miscue in the bottom of the 15th, but they bounce back to get the series win yesterday. Jalen Flores, Will Gasparino, I mean, my God, he's reached base in 27 straight games. We've talked about some of these players needing to step up in the absence of Max Ballou. Nobody has stepped up more than the Horn center fielder. Will Gasparino has been money. 3 hits yesterday, including a 2-run double in the 3rd inning. Texas playing some great defense all weekend long. Shout out to Ruger Riojas, who went, 6 2/3 for Texas in the win. After that 15-inning game the day prior, Texas needed its starter to go eat some innings because they were pretty shorthanded in the pen. Riojas did just that. And then Grayson Saunier, not really one of the biggest and most used arms for the Horns out of the pen. He comes in yesterday, 2 1/3, gives up just 1 run, worked out of a couple of jams, and picks up his first save of the season. Again, a long save for Grayson Saunier. Curious to see if his role expands a little bit in the future. But like the point of talking about him is it's just more of the same. Texas is getting contributions from everybody. Without their preseason All-American and the reigning Big 12 Player of the Year, the Horns are still getting the job done in the toughest conference in the sport. And they've dealt with a couple of other injuries too throughout the course of SEC play. And here we are, 5 series in. Texas, 13 wins, 2 losses, sole possession of first place in the SEC. And I believe this is the 6th sports that Texas has been ranked number 1 in the country in this academic year. Despite the move to the SEC, and everybody's saying that, oh, the Horns aren't ready for the SEC. This is the toughest conference in college sports. And, hey, congrats on what you did in the Big 12. And, hey, those Directors' Cups, those were kind of cool. But, yeah, it's the Big 12. Come do it in a real league. A lot of folks talk trash about the Longhorns before they step foot in the Southeastern Conference. Texas making a lot of folks eat their words and delete their tweets. I don't want to hear about this being a down year in SEC baseball. We heard that enough in football. I don't want to hear that in baseball because that ain't the case. 1, 2, and 3 all SEC teams. I think 6 of the top 10 in college baseball right now are SEC teams. So Texas took care of LSU, took care of Georgia. They get another top 10 foe with Auburn coming to town this Thursday through Saturday. It's a quicker week because of Easter Sunday. But yeah, Texas just continues to get the job done. Can't say enough about the job that Jim Schlossnagle and his staff has done in year one. Good to see A-Rod back in the lineup playing a little outfield. I wonder if we see more of that moving forward because Texas has had some problems at left field, especially since Max Ballou went down in right field and the Longhorns had to shift some things around. So keeping Casey Borba in the lineup at third, maybe getting A-Rod in left field. I wonder if that's going to be the plan moving forward for Texas. But what a ride for Texas baseball. I think it's 29-5. Just wanted to confirm 29-5, the overall record. Again, 13-2 in the SEC. First place in the conference, first place in the country. I know there's been a lot of turnover at the top of these polls, so some folks a little nervous. If you would have told any Longhorn baseball fan before the year began that the Horns would be ranked number one at any point in the season, they would have signed up for it. So don't be nervous about this. This is another sign of this program moving in the right direction. Hell, they're already in the right direction. They don't need to move that much further. They're doing great so far. But Schloss talked about it after the game yesterday. Long way to go. Long way to go in this season and obviously the postseason as well. We'll be talking all about it on Locked On Longhorns. But what a weekend and what a run it's been for Texas baseball. All right, one segment left on today's show. How about some Texas Longhorns basketball? The Horns just filled a huge need with a transfer portal commitment earlier today. We'll tell you who the Longhorns are getting, and we'll tell you the big problem from this past season that this guy is going to help fix right here on Locked On Longhorns. But first, a word from our friends at SupplyHouse. Get the supplies you need, made for the skilled trades. That's SupplyHouse. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, SupplyHouse is the reliable way to order your products online. Their easy-to-use website is super easy. It's packed with helpful resources and all of the latest product info to help you get the job done and done right. Their inventory has more than 200,000 parts to choose from 400-plus top brands. You're going to get exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, SupplyHouse offers expert support. You're always going to talk to a real person. And they've got their free Trademaster program that offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled pros are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. And use the promo code SH5 and you're going to get 5% off your first order. A little discount on top of everything else we just talked about. SH5, the promo code at supplyhouse.com. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Final segment of a Monday show. The Texas basketball team picked up another transfer portal commitment earlier today. It's the second commit who is following Sean Miller from Xavier. The Horns, of course, landed 6'8" wing Dalen Swain a couple of weeks back. Now the Longhorns have themselves a new big man, 6'10" big man, Lacina Traore, committed to Texas earlier today, and he will join the Longhorns for the 2025-26 season. Traore is a Xavier transfer, but he never actually played for the Musketeers. Not because he wasn't good, well, because he suffered a season-ending knee injury in a scrimmage last October right before the first game. And again, that kept him out for the whole year. He was supposed to start at Xavier. They got him from Long Beach State, where he averaged 12.5 points and 10.5 rebounds in his last two seasons for the 49ers. Also helped LBSU make it to the NCAA tournament and win the Big West Conference tournament title back in 2024. This guy was a really good player at Long Beach State. It was a really good get for Xavier and Sean Miller a year ago. Unfortunately, he just never got to play because of that injury. Here's what Sean Miller said last October when Traore got hurt about Lacina Traore. Quote, Lacina was a starter on this year's team. He had a great summer in preseason where he improved his game as much as any player in our program. He emerged to be our team's best rebounder, low post defender, and shot blocker. He was in superior condition and became a tone center for everything that impacts winning. We will miss Lucina's ability and presence. No one player can replace him. All of us will have to do more, be better, and step up in our respective roles, and we eagerly await his return to the basketball court in the 25-26 season, end quote. Well, that return will now be in Austin, and now we get to eagerly await the return of Lucina Traore. Rebounding, low post defense, shot blocking. If you watched Texas play this past season, you know that all three of those things were lacking. And Traore actually led the Big West in rebounding in his last season in the conference, which of course was 2 years ago. So this guy is a low post presence, not only a big body, but a physical body who's willing to bang down low and get the rebounds, block some shots, do everything that the Horns were missing this past year. And that's 2 big man additions. That's what I wanted. We've talked about that right here. You needed 2 big men. Caden Shedrick was okay last year. He gave you some good things. The biggest problem with Caden Shedrick is he was by himself. If Texas had another capable big man, then you wouldn't have felt the impact of Caden Shedrick having a bad game as much as you did. He was the only capable big that Texas had. And, well, he got bullied from time to time. And then if he ever got in foul trouble or got hurt, then the Longhorns were in for a long night. Texas struggled dealing with teams with size, teams that could rebound, especially teams that could rebound on offense. Traore, again, a big dude, an elite rebounder. Him plus Matas Vokataitis. Hopefully I said that right. The 7-footer coming in from Florida Atlantic. Those are 2 big men who are not like this new age of big men where they only hang out outside the 3-point line. No, these guys will go down low. They will rebound. They can play back to the basket and get you some points in the paint. Texas didn't have that last year. They are getting that this year with these 2 transfer portal additions. What a portal class it's been so far for Sean Miller. Talked about Dalen Swain. Talked about Matas Vokataitis. Of course, the Purdue wing, Cam Heide coming in to help with the 3-point shooting. Still need a point guard. That's it. I think there are 2 scholarships still available for the Longhorns this coming season. I wouldn't mind getting 2 guards, but we'll see what Texas does. Maybe they go with the win now player and then more of a developmental piece. There are still some high schoolers who have yet to sign in this class of 2025. So fascinated to see how Sean Miller fills this thing out. But, man, he's done about as good of a job as you could realistically do, having to pretty much start from scratch. I know Texas brought some players back, but Sean Miller had to re-recruit those guys to Texas, the Kendall Weavers, the Tremont Marks, the Jordan Popes of the world. Had to get those guys to stay here, and then obviously convince some guys from the portal to come along as well. Job's not finished, but super, super impressed with what Coach Miller has done in his first, not even full month on the job here at the University of Texas. I was big on the hire, and I'm even bigger on the hire right now with the way this roster is starting to come together. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Thank you so much for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every day. For your next listen, check out Locked On NFL Draft with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. A week and a half away from the first round of the NFL Draft as your favorite Longhorns and favorite college football players from around the country get set to take their talents to the next level. Get all of the latest rankings, mock drafts, rumors, and news every day. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll have Steve Sarkisian sound tomorrow. More Texas basketball, more Texas baseball, more Texas everything. Never a dull moment when talking Longhorn sports. And we got you covered every day right here on Locked On Longhorns. Please like, please share, please subscribe, please rate, all of those great things. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon on Locked On Longhorns.